Hello, and welcome to HBO Succession, the analysis of a toxic family system, with Mandy Friedman, licensed professional clinical counsellor, and Andrew, her brother.
Hello there, Mandy Friedman here, licensed professional clinical counselor, clinically certified domestic violence counselor, clinically certified trauma professional level 2, and the creator of SNAP, Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities. We're back talking about Succession. We are in season 3 with my brother Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Mandy. It's good to be back. This time we're going to be talking about Kendall and all his exploits during season 3.
And I have to say that season 3, we're really getting started with a lot of the complexities, and I'm enjoying it more and more as the series goes along.
We join Kendall in an empty bathtub, and I find it interesting that water is often some kind of metaphor for Kendall and his mental health. You know, he begins the season in an empty bathtub, and he might end the season in a full swimming pool.
He's a water baby, I guess. He tends to be drawn to the water, it seems. He's doing these breathing exercises when we first see him, and it makes me think that, you know, he's learned that somewhere. He's like grounding himself is what you're seeing him do. And then he springs up and says action stations. So he just needed a minute.
This is when we see Kendall start to kind of work on his plan, and his first step in his plan is to collect as many flying monkeys and take them away from Logan as he can.
He's trying to rally the troops, and he's calling around. One of the calls he makes is to Shiv, and he sounds so creepy. He's like, Shivy, 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 Shivy. He's just being weird. He's so high right now. He's manic. He's in a state of being elated, thinking that he's a genius, thinking he has a lot of power and a power of persuasion over other people. And he's calling around thinking that surely they would want to join sides with him.
One of the folks that Kendall is trying to control is Greg. And he has a conversation with Greg about being a killer, and he jokes around about it.
Greg said something along the lines of, it's like OJ, except if OJ never killed anyone. And then Kendall says, who says I haven't killed anyone? And then they just laugh. It's like he thinks it's funny, or like it gives him like street cred, or like he doesn't seem like it bothers him that much if it's that funny. Who says I haven't killed anyone?
Well, Kendall uses cringe humor as well, like to kind of like fend off things that might make him upset, and I think that's what's going on here a little bit. Kendall also hires the best of everything, but he doesn't listen to any of them. All right. He is like controlling the narrative by claiming he's on the right moral side of this whole thing, too.
Exactly. He's trying to take the moral high ground here, but really he's just hijacking the moral high ground and using it to his own advantage, obviously. But he hires Lisa. Lisa is a top lawyer. We even see Shiv at some point go to meet with this lawyer. But Kendall is already signed with this lawyer, and she tries to help him. She tries to be patient. She tries to communicate with him, and he is not hearing anything that she has to say. But it's just hilarious because he started off by telling the lawyer that, I trust you. I'll do whatever you say. I am your puppet, is what he said. I am your puppet. But that's not really how it plays out.
It's interesting, too, when two people get divorced, sometimes on a TV show, you'll see the thing where the husband goes around to every lawyer in town, so that the wife can't get a lawyer because he's already consulted with them. And that's what happens to Shiv. And Shiv has, an interesting journey with Kendall this season that we'll get into more and more. What about Kendall's use of word salad this season? I mean, he's all about it. He has a family word salad at all times right in front of him.
Exactly. And there's a moment in particular with Lisa, the lawyer. He's doing a lot of crazy making, and he is using a lot of word salad, but she's saying, I need you to sit down and focus on this. They're at Rava's house. He's cruising around talking to people. And Lisa and her team are there to meet with him at night. And I bet you their fees are probably really I mean, per hour, he's probably spending, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars with everybody that he's got sitting in there just, on the clock, collecting lawyer fees. But at some point when she tries to get him to sit down, he says, what if he shuts it all down? He can't shut it down. Oh, yes, he can. I mean, he might. In other words, what if Logan has a way of getting out of this? We need to be thinking about that right now, not about what I need to do and how I need to prepare, but instead we need to figure out how to outsmart my dad. He says, oh, yes, he can. I mean, he might. You need to prepare for all eventualities. We might need to call the state police to arrest the FBI. We might need to plan to fly me out without a tail number to Frankfurt or to Venezuela. I'm not serious, but I am serious. Word salad. Makes no sense. Basically, you worry about you and go down this rabbit hole and leave me alone, and I'm going to do what I want to do, and let's just not all worry about any of that stuff. Didn't you just say you were her puppet?
Kendall's saying, I've hired you to deal with these issues. It's not only your job to deal with them, it's your job to identify them and everything else, right? I'm not going to help you with that at all, even though I just said I would. The siblings are kind of, people that Kendall wants to collect in his group of flying monkeys. He wants them to be on his side. As we said before, he's used the moral objection to kind of, try to get them to his side. But as soon as he realizes maybe Shiv won't be on his side or Roman, he discards and devalues them. They don't want to join the rebellion.
He starts off a little bit persuasive, but then he can't really handle being challenged and confronted by the rest of his siblings. It's difficult for him to maintain that I'm going to be nice thing. It takes effort, right? So narcissists, psychopaths, people that have these types of personalities, they fake things quite frequently because their insides don't match their outsides, wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. So they will appear a certain way, but it takes effort. It takes energy on their part. So when he's acting right or being nice, it's like it takes something from him. At least that's the way they see it. And then when you don't respond to that in the ways that they imagine that you would, they go instantly to being pissed off and angry with you. And anyone who has been in a relationship with a narcissist or around a narcissist knows exactly what I'm talking about. All of a sudden they're being nice and they expect for you to not bring anything up, that it's just, let's forget it. Let's just act like none of it ever happened. Here are some flowers, love bombing. Let me take you on a trip, love bombing. Whatever you do, don't bring up the real issues though. So if you say, well, this is really nice, but also we still have to talk about your behavior and what you did. Oh, well, you live in the past, I guess, huh? We can't, I guess you just like to fight. You just like to argue. Well, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, hold on. How were we fine 2 seconds ago? And you were actually kind of sorry seeming and wanting to do nice things for me. But now that's complete from one to another really quick. And it's because how dare you make them waste that precious energy of acting nice? That took effort for them to humble themselves and say they're sorry. You better react in the ways that they want you to react. So as he starts to sort of spiral with his siblings, he starts lashing out at them, devaluing them, and weaponizing that sensitive information, including saying to Connor, you're not wanted. Well, we know, and we'll talk more about Connor, we know that this is a soft spot for Connor to say to him, you're not wanted. He's jabbing them right where it hurts. And he says to his own sister, the only reason you're here is because you're a girl. And right now, girls count double. Didn't you know? Your only value is your teats, is what he says to his own sister. So the hypocrisy here is audacious, that he is simultaneously hijacking, weaponizing the narratives of survivors of actual violence and horrific things, as if he's taking their side and helping them and fighting for these women that were victimized, and then uses misogynistic, women-hating language to his own sister. You can't disrespect your sister in a misogynistic way, simultaneously fighting for the rights of women. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Plus, the term teats refers to, breasts on farm animals. So it's even extra kind of a jab right there, and man.
Is this another wildlife metaphor?
It is, I think so. It's an awful one too. But here's one of the things that's awesome about this show is that we get to see complex versions of these kinds of characters, these kinds of people. What happens, Mandy, when the guy who is the narcissist, who doesn't want to hear the bad stuff, decides, let's play a game where we talk about the bad stuff? This game's called Good Tweet, Bad Tweet.
Kendall is trying really hard to act like that he doesn't care about the criticisms and the mean things that people are saying about him right now. He sees it as like any publicity is good publicity. But a lot of what's being circulated is truthful and accurate about his demeanor, his past, his behaviors, and just the way that people generally perceive him. So when they're doing this good tweet, bad tweet, they are reading something that's funny and that's not that big of a deal, something that's encouraging, good tweet, yay. And then a bad tweet is basically Kendall sucks. And then they laugh, ha, 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 isn't that funny? But at a certain point, when the truth is a little bit too true, it gets awkward and people don't know what to do. Do we laugh? Do we not laugh? And they look to Kendall to be like, ha, ha, ha. They're like fake laugh. Like, do I fake laugh now? When do I fake laugh? Oh, ha, ha, now, ha, ha. It's funny because Kendall says it's funny, but it's really kind of uncomfortable and cringy and awkward because it's true and he refuses to see the truth about himself. And that's one of the biggest problems with this guy is he does not have self-awareness.
Well, self-awareness is no fun, especially when you're on your way to this big writers event where you're going to have an opportunity to, be in front of the media and show people what's really going on in your life, right?
So they arrive at an event that's for, I guess, journalists, something that the family does every year. Shiv supposedly goes to this every year. And I don't think it's something that Kendall normally goes to, but he shows up with Naomi and on the red carpet, on the way in, he screams, "Fuck the patriarchy." You are the patriarchy, you asshole. You are the patriarchy. You and your sister with teats. Fuck off. Is what Logan would say. Fuck off. Yeah. Fuck the patriarchy. He is taking feminist themes. He's taking women's survivor narratives. He's taking the hardships of the victims of these crimes and he's using it to further his own agenda. And that's kind of the worst kind of evil there is when you use something that is a genuine and authentic thing that actually is meaningful and is deep for people and it's an important issue, and you hijack that, appropriate it, and use it as your own for your own evil purposes. And that's basically the Logan Roy family.
Throughout all this, these big themes are happening and these things, of course, but also there's like just little tiny bits of assholery going on as well, where we have Kendall manipulating Greg. And what he does in this situation has to do with a watch.
He's future faking with Greg. And he has Greg thinking that he's going to buy him a watch. And Greg's all excited about it. And he's got it. And then when it's time to pull the trigger, Greg's like, "Can I have it?" And Kendall's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "I like this one." So, like, "I thought you were buying it for me." "I'm not buying that for you. Are you kidding?" Like, what? But it's a perfect example of future faking. It's a way of making someone think that you care or love them or that there's going to be a good future together, but you have no intention of following through with those things, but they'll follow you long enough because they think that they're going to get somewhere with you. And so far, the only place that Kendall has gotten Greg is to have a condo where people have sex in his bed. And he gets to party with people and hang out with people, but he's not really taking Greg anywhere professionally. He's not really helping Greg achieve any of Greg's goals. He's just having Greg to be a hanger-on and somebody that can be a flying monkey for him. But that's his only value to Kendall.
Also as an item to take away from Logan, right? If he can take that away from Logan, then that's in the plus side for Kendall. Again, we've seen the human furniture thing. Well, Kendall, what does Kendall think of people like that? So it's if Tom thinks they're furniture, Kendall sees them as even less. As the season has gone on, Kendall's trying this rebellion against his father, but he's still employed by Waystar. Well, he starts a rumor that he's going to show up to work, and he does.
He's shown up to work. He is in his office. He thinks that they have hacked his thermostat of his office. He's like, this is definitely 60 degrees. And his assistant's like, I don't know, it feels like 72. He's kind of paranoid at this point because he's still in this manic episode. And at one point, Colin, who's Logan's personal security guard, who also helped cover up a lot of Kendall's crimes, just shows up in his office and whispers, I know you. And it works. Kendall sort of, he responds to that, like he kind of shrinks a little bit, but it doesn't stop him with his schemes.
Yeah, Kendall's teetering a little at this point, right? And that's one of those things that's kind of pushing him a little bit to get him to teeter. So this is also the same day of the big town hall meeting, which is a phony town hall meeting, and this is to address all of Waystar's issues, and it's going to be fronted by Shiv. She's the new face of the company, right?
Exactly, and she's really excited about this. This is her big debut. She's finally getting the role that she wants, and while she's talking, music starts playing, and Kendall has had someone go out and buy a bunch of Bluetooth speakers and has them all set up, and he's playing Rape Me by Nirvana. And it's so loud that she cannot finish her speech. He ruins the whole thing and completely sabotages his sister. Now, you and I would think, so what? Why can't she still be CEO? Why does this change her path of her own professional development? Why does it change things? Well, because it's all about appearances. It's all about, what people will what people are going to say. And the fact that she stood up there and bombed on her very first thing as the CEO means that she can't be CEO now. And I think that Kendall knew that that's what he was doing. He was tanking his sister.
Kendall's pretty good at these PR stunts. They're always very pointed. They're very direct in a way that is kind of sneaky and kind of, like, wow, I almost respect it, kind of thing. But I would never do that to you, Mandy. So,
well, thank you. That's so nice of you. I mean, you are here helping me do this, and you encourage me, and you're always on board, and you're always super helpful. So you've demonstrated that you're not like Kendall. If you were, you would probably be trying to sabotage us right now.
Kendall has just sabotaged Shiv, and she is going to get revenge, and she's going to get revenge at a very poignant time. There is a TV show hosted by this woman named Sophie, who is kind of like, a comedian type that makes fun of Kendall, and that's a big part of her show. So he decides he wants to go on the show, but Shiv's revenge drops right as he's about to be on.
He thinks he's so funny. He pushes his way into the writers' group meeting, and he's not really supposed to be there, but he does it anyway. And he's just acting weird, and they're all just sort of placating and letting him be that way, hoping that he gets on the show. Well, right before, like you said, that's when Shiv's letter comes out. And Shiv's letter is honest. It is truthful. It says exactly what has been going on. And they're not used to talking that way. They're not used to, like you said a second ago, he's really good with PR stunts, right? What they're good at is avoiding the truth, shifting the narrative, and manipulating. That's what they do. What is the kryptonite of those things? The truth. Facts. That's the kryptonite of manipulation and of narcissism. So right as he's getting ready to go on the show, one of his aides comes up to him and shows him the letter. And he's like, oh, well, she can't do this. I mean, this is private. He's like, she can't send this out, can she? Like, not everyone's seen this, right? Because it's private. And she's like, no, I mean, like the whole world can see it. The whole world. Then he tries to get the producer of the show to leave it out of the show. And she says, it would be really weird if we didn't bring it up, and then we would lose credibility because everyone's reading this right now. So if we didn't bring it up, it would make it sort of suspicious, don't you think? And he's like, well, everything's fine. But, I might not come on the show. She's like, 15 minutes. It starts in 15 minutes. He's like, that's okay. I can fix this. She's like, what, you can get Jay-Z here in 15 minutes? He's like, yeah, I can do that. Like, okay. He's like, but everything's fine. Okay. And he disappears into a side room like he does. He, goes down to a fetal looking childlike position. He has read the letter. He sees the truth in it. And then he kind of sits back and is listening to Sophie. And she is digging into all of that and says that she's been ghosted by Snitchy Rich.
Part of this revenge is that then Kendall is fired from Waystar. All right. So he's now out on the company, and his manic episode where at the beginning of the season, he was at the tippy top after he got out of that bathtub and said, let's go. It's action. It is slowly but surely starting to spiral out of control. So now Kendall's kids, we haven't talked about too much this season, but they have a rabbit that he purchased for them. All right. And in the middle of all this stuff that's going on, I mean, it's made clear what's important to Kendall and what isn't. He is asked about the care of the rabbit, and this does not go well.
You can see when the kids are playing with the rabbit initially, they have the rabbit on FaceTime with Kendall, and then his assistant is there actually holding the camera. So the kids aren't there while he's swirling around doing all these things, but he got them the bunny, and at a certain point, his aide reaches out to him and says, hey, the kids want to feed the rabbit a bagel, but I did the research and you're not supposed to feed bagels to rabbits. And Kendall's like, it'll be fine. Look, I'm not paying you to think. Give them the bagel. Trust me, it'll be fine. It's just a bagel. Well, as it turns out, rabbits aren't supposed to have bagels. So then when she reaches out and says, there's something wrong with the rabbit, he's like, what did you do? Well, I gave it a bagel. Like you said, well, how much bagel did you give it? So it's still her fault. It's not that he messed up and told her to do something that she shouldn't have done, but it's that she gave him too much bagel. She's like, what do you want me to do? He's like, take the bunny to a doctor. If a doctor can do people, they can do bunnies. Wow. What a dick.
Also shows his ignorance about, basic things in life. And it's like, what's important to this guy? It's not the care of the actual bunny and the longevity that his bunny could cause for his family as far as happiness and his children. It's the, initial thing. Let's get them happy. All right, let's move on. What's the next thing, right? Wait, they're not happy? Feed them the bagel. Let's go on. You screwed up the bagel. It's this big, madness. And he treats his children at times, or the problems that his children bring up in his life, as a business decision. And, let's take care of it right now. Something I don't think we've talked about much is that, I don't think these family members and all these characters in the show think about the future much at all. Mostly it's just right now. What's going on right now? What can we fix right now? Who cares about what happened in the past? What's going on right now? We don't care about what's going to happen in the future. The only character that cares about that's Jerry, honestly. So, and Tom, and Tom about going to prison. He's worried about that. Yeah. But it's that whole rabbit thing is just fascinating, and I loved it. Now we have a situation where the shareholders are worried because we have a medical episode with Logan that we'll get into in Logan's episode. But one of the major shareholders is played by Adrian Brody. He wants to meet with Kendall and with Logan to see if this is all going to work. He owns all this stock. He's lost a bunch of money because of Kendall shenanigans and now the medical episode. Let's get these guys together and figure out what's going on. They do that on Adrian Brody's private island, and they take a little walk.
They do. And I'd just like to point out that the name of this episode is A Lion in the Meadow. And Logan is the lion, and he's wandering in the meadow. And, Adrian Brody, I think his name is Josh, is taking them for this long walk, and they kind of get lost. And instead of Logan saying from the beginning, I'd prefer not to take a walk. Let's stay here. He's trying so hard to win this guy over that he's willing to put himself in a precarious situation, and it winds up being a bad choice. He should not have gone on that walk, but he's a big tough man, and it's all good. The scars on his back that nobody can see, it's the same kind of thing here. He should have said, no, I'm not going to walk, because I shouldn't, because I'm 80 and I have health problems. But he's got to be a big tough man. And during the walk, he does sort of collapse and needs help getting back. And that does not bode well for them. And it turns out then that the whole scene backfires, and Josh loses faith and decides that he wants to go a different direction.
Josh is an asshole, just like the rest of them. He's another one of these guys, that, man, what a jerk. Another jerky situation is, again, the, further manipulation of Greg. Kendall decides to threaten to burn Greg. Now, he might not have to, but, he might have to.
This is a really great example of coercive control and what abuse actually looks like in abusive relationships. People think that abusive relationships involve somebody getting punched in the face or thrown around, but it really looks a lot more like the scene between Greg and Kendall. Greg is saying to him, look, I'm going to have to go my own way potentially here. And Kendall's like, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I get it. And he's talking to him in this nice, kind voice of, almost like you're a family member and I care about you, and makes Greg think that it's okay to talk about these things and that, what, we're cool. Kendall says, you and we're cool. I get it. But I might have to burn you, I probably won't. I don't want to, but I might have to, And Greg's like, well, what do you mean you might have to burn me? And it's like, well, they're going to want some red meat, and it might have to be you, but you and I are cool, man. It's just part of the game. It's nothing personal. So in other words, Greg's saying, I'm not happy. I want something different. And Kendall is saying, if you leave, I will hurt you. But it doesn't look like that's what he's saying. It looks like he's being supportive of him, but his words are saying a different story. That's what actual abuse usually looks like, is it looks like a warm conversation. No one's raising their voice. No one's saying anything really super mean. And the mean things that do get said are done so under like this, well, it's reasonable, what do you want me to do? I'm in a pinch here, and I'm going to have to use every tool at my disposal. Surely you can understand that. And if I have to burn you, it's what I have to do. It's nothing personal. Well, that doesn't make Greg feel like it's okay to leave, does it? It makes him feel like if he leaves, something bad is going to happen to him. And that is coercive control. Greg feels like he can't leave, even though he's being told, we're good. We're good.
We're totally good. There is all kinds of legal shenanigans going on this season, too. Kendall is deposed, and it becomes clearer to him that this whole play is starting to not go his way. Lisa, his high-powered lawyer, speaks truth to him. And turns out she's just a toxic person, though.
Another great example of narcissistic abuse and how narcissists behave is that they twist things around to make the target of abuse look like that they themselves are the abuser. There's a form of this that's called reactive abuse. In other words, I poke. And then finally, when you react, I go, see, look, you're crazy. And I am going to make sure there's an audience and witnesses for your explosion. So I'm going to do this to you at a party where there's people around. And then after you explode, I'm going to say things like, she didn't take her medicine today. I need to get her back into therapy. Gosh, I love her so much. When she has these hard times like this, it hurts me to see it. And everybody's like, oh, he's such a good partner to her. She's, she puts him through a lot. So what happens is Lisa, the lawyer, who is really good at what she does, and she's really good at big personalities and narcissistic personalities, you can tell, because the way she handles him is the way that I suggest to my clients of ways that they can handle narcissistic people, is that in your mind, you picture an emotional toddler. but an emotional toddler that you care about. And by the way, you're not an authoritative parent. So in other words, it's, I see that you're hurting. I see that you're angry, and I see that you're angry at me. How can we make this better right now? No, we can't do that. We can't go back to the ice cream store. Just because you dropped your ice cream cone doesn't mean we're going back to the ice cream store. We can go back tomorrow, maybe. I know it sucks that you dropped your ice cream cone and that you'd like another one, but we're not going back. But I know it hurts to drop your ice cream. I've done that too, right? So you talk to the person in a compassionate way. You try to meet them where they are, but you're also not caving. You know, you're still maintaining your boundaries, but it lets the narcissistic person know, I hear you. I see you. You're important to me. I care about how you feel. And then they feel heard and seen and known. But what they're expecting from you is that you're going to be defensive and that you're going to attack back because that's the way they would. So when you return a nicety, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't have to go this far. So Lisa knows how to talk to him. And at a certain point, she says, I hear you're concerned. You have a big day tomorrow. She doesn't take the bait, you know, she stays warm and kind of motherly. And again, this is a good way to handle a person in this moment. And he says to her, I value the work that you do, okay? But let's try harder, he says. And this whole time, she hasn't been taking the bait. She's been really good at gray rocking with him. But since it didn't go well, the deposition, she is now in a position where she needs to speak truth to him. After the deposition, he launches into a tirade in the hallway. Basically, he realizes that he's not the big hero here, that he actually could be in trouble, and this is what she's trying to tell him. But this is typical narcissistic behavior. The narcissist will feel like that they're the smartest person in the room, especially in court. They think that they're so savvy that they don't need a lawyer, they're smarter than the lawyers, and that they're going to manipulate everything and it's all going to go just great. I see this all the time. Lisa snaps out of her gray rocking. She snaps out of that, you know, being the passive and looking at it like an emotional toddler. And she shifts into, I'm going to tell you the truth now. And this is what he cannot handle. When he is throwing a tantrum in the hallway and he's saying things, she's going, not here, not here, not here. And he turns to her and says, I bet you that'll put a rocket up their asses. And you can just see her shift right in that moment. She recognizes, holy crap. He doesn't even see that he's losing. He doesn't even see that we are in trouble now and that his behaviors are making it worse. I'm going to have to talk to him. And so she does. It basically stops her in her tracks and she looks at him and is truly seeing him for the first time. He has a serious lack of self-awareness, and while he is a smart and witty person, he has a severe deficit of emotional intelligence. He seems delusional. And Lisa seems affected by this. She asks him straight up, do you think you're smarter than me? Ooh. And then she's still kind of speaking to the inner toddler and says, well, maybe you are. Maybe you are smarter than me. But then she says, but I am a better lawyer. He can't argue with that because he's not a lawyer at all. She's not only a lawyer, but she's a good one, the best, right? So it's forcing him to have to admit that he doesn't know what he's doing here. And he doesn't like that at all. She says, you acted high-handed and defensive, and then oscillated to wildly overfamiliar and glib. You sometimes undermine my status and didn't appear to be frank about your own involvement. But let's take stock, okay? You can see in Kendall's face that he is done with her in that moment. That was too much truth. Just like the letter from Shiv, too much truth. This is too much truth. She is accurately describing his behaviors, and he doesn't like the sound of it. And the narcissist cannot handle any self-honesty. And since everything she said was true, she is now the enemy, even though she's trying to help him and doing so by remaining calm, professional, patient, even-tempered, extremely patient. But here's the thing. She is so perceptive. And while she handles the giant toddler who throws a massive tantrum when things don't go his way, we got to cut to the next scene. And here we have it, folks. This is narcissistic abuse. He tells his assistant that he wants to put that out in the right context, that Lisa is a toxic person. Lisa is the toxic person, the patient person. the one that is trying to help him, but she's a toxic person. And I would like to start a smear campaign.
You're with me or you're against me. And so the fact that she's crossed that line with him, or, you know, I just acted like a normal person, which is not acceptable to him. He's now, you know, turned her into the suppressive person that needs to be, you know, shunned and gotten out of the group. And hopefully she'll never work again, you know.
Andrew, guess what? That happens to me too. When I'm trying to help people that are being narcissistically abused, at some point it will come up that the person that is being targeted is in therapy now, and that abuser will want to know who this therapist is, and will find out that it's me, and then I'm the one that gets completely discredited, and, you know, there's an attempt of a smear campaign, and then shitty things are said about me to the target. And then that's brought back to me. Well, he said that you're just a feminist that makes money off of making women feel good about themselves, and things like that. So that's what narcissists do. They twist it all around so that they're the good guy, they're the victim, and that everyone else is out to get them. And they do it on a dime, just like Kendall did.
Must be hard being Kendall. You know what I mean? Gosh, poor guy.
With only $2 billion.
I mean, he paid Lisa, what, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she turned on him. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. You know, we've talked a lot about how, you know, Kendall is kind of a cringy person, but I don't think anything is as cringy as his birthday party. It is incredible. Plot-wise, it is important that we mention that Madsen, the owner of Gojo, is at this party, which we'll get to him eventually. But Kendall has quite a production planned here for his birthday party. He has baby Wu-Tang. He has a literal cross for him to carry while singing Honesty, fake headlines printed on giant posters, 2 VIP areas, one above the other, and an actual birth canal so that guests at his party can be birthed into the world just like he was. He also has a saying, and that is that no boundaries if you're cool. The Narcissist anthem.
He's basically telling his staff, look, you can party too, and that if you're cool, there's no boundaries. And I just thought interesting, because that is exactly what narcissists would like, is that everyone just act right, be cool. There's no boundaries. We don't really want boundaries, right? But we also don't want to hold anyone accountable, be honest, have expectations or needs or concerns. You don't get to be the real you ever. So when you say, as long as you're cool, being cool means ignoring my flaws.
Lisa wasn't very cool. She's not at the party. Big moment in this is that, you know, Kendall wants the siblings there, all right? And he wants them there so he can try to manipulate them. And they show up, but they aren't there to support him, which causes him some pain inside. He also gets a card from his dad, which has an offer in it. But Kendall isn't willing to leave this abusive relationship behind quite yet.
And it's sad because he was really hoping that his siblings might want to be there for a genuine reason of supporting him. And when they find out they're just there to talk to Madsen, that hurts him. He gets this card. He starts to open it up. He thinks that his dad has actually given him a birthday card, and he's excited about it. And then he opens it up, and Logan has crossed out happy birthday and wrote fuck off, with an offer of $2 billion. Gotta say it again. 2 with a B, billion, 2, not 1, $2 billion as a buyout to get him out. And Naomi says, maybe you take it. Maybe you take the 2B. But like with all abusive relationships, it's very difficult to get out. People say, just leave. And then they don't, and everybody gets pissed off. So Naomi's just going, why don't you just leave? Well, I have clients that leave abusive circumstances and they have nothing, and they do it and they make it happen. They start over from scratch. They make a new life, and somehow they're able to. Then I have clients that have everything, every resource at their disposal. They don't have money problems. They have a supportive family, and for some reason they can't. So resources, willpower, and circumstances don't really have anything to do with why someone leaves or doesn't leave. It has to do with trauma bonds. It has to do with power dynamics. It has to do with familial dynamics, and constantly chasing for the rest of your life any kind of affirmation or self-worth, since you never got that from your parents or from the important people in your life. They're basically a giant black hole of emotional neediness. that never goes away.
Kendall's birthday party is starting to not go the way he wants it to. Things start to compound here as he has kind of like a couple different meltdowns. The first one involves a gift from his children.
Rava is there. And at a certain point, she says to him, hey, did you get that gift from the kids? And he's like, wait, what? What gift? And you see him really zero in on this quickly, right? All of a sudden, he's really worried about this gift from the kids. Well, you see that he's sort of crumbling. He's in a downward spiral. He was manic. Now we're going into a depressive episode. Things aren't going his way. And one of the things that's bothering him is that he's failing. Birthday party's failing. And the court stuff with Lisa was failing. And now his siblings aren't even there to see him. And Mattson's there. And, he's just failing, failure. And to say, do you have the kids present that they gave you is another opportunity for him to look like a failure. Either you're going to be a good dad right now or you're going to be a shitty dad right now. And he needs to be a good dad right now more than anything to salvage what little bit of self-esteem that he can muster, right? Well, she also said that it was wrapped in rabbit wrapping paper. Now, how thoughtful is that from the kids? Like, daddy bought us a bunny. I know, let's wrap his present, his 40th birthday present, in some bunny wrapping paper. That sounds so sweet that the kids would do that. The bunny that he said it was fine to feed a bagel to, which then got the bunny sick, which probably traumatized the children and turned it into something scary instead of something fun, but hey. But they can't find the gift. And he's just flipping out. And he's yelling at everyone. He's making fun of every people. He's just saying shitty things. And here's Naomi trying to be there to console and help him and appease him. And she's trying real hard to keep him calm. And then at a certain point, he turns on her. She says, how about I give you your gift? Like a child again. Hey, you want your present? You want your ice cream cone? Let me distract you. Come over here. And so she gives him his present, and it's a watch. And he's not happy with this gift at all. And it's very clear right away that he's not happy. So she starts to fawn. I'm sorry, I know that was stupid. You want a blowjob? And he continues to recognize that he is spiraling. She really cares about him. She's trying to help him. So he says he's sorry. He recognizes that Naomi is not really the object that he needs to be channeling his anger at. And then he kind of crumples to the floor like he does into the position that he always gets into. And he says, I want to go home. So they go home. And he's wrapped in a blanket like he's the survivor of a natural disaster, like his house just burnt down and he's out there with the paramedics with the blanket on. And at a certain point, he puts his head in her lap and she's sort of stroking him. And you see the look on her face is sort of like, I might be done with this shit. I might not like this too much anymore. But that's what he needed. He needed motherly attention. He needed something that would fill the hole that was left by his father, his mother, his siblings. And she was able to do that for him in that moment. But it's not sexy anymore.
It's odd, too, because I know he was trying to be humble and really trying to make sure everybody had a good time at this party. What he didn't want was an asshole's birthday party, right? And I just feel bad for him because it turned out that the party did seem like an asshole's birthday party. So poor guy.
I said at the beginning of this, look, I want to have a big party, but I don't want it to look like an asshole's birthday party. And this looks like an asshole's birthday party because it is, you dipshit. It is an asshole's birthday party. It's too much truth. And so the name of the episode is Too Much Birthday. And I love that because it's too much birthday. It's time to go home.
Yeah.
I'm not too much.
Well, something else that is too much in the modern colloquial sense is Caroline's wedding. It is the children's mother, Logan's ex-wife's wedding. And Kendall shows up with a shaved head, so he's changed, he's a different guy now. And he immediately loses his kids at the festivities, again, showing that they're nothing until he wants them to be around. Like, he didn't pay any attention to him the whole time, but now that he needs him for something, he's got to have him right there, you know?
And he yells and barks at them just like Logan yells and barks at his kids. Kids, let's go.
Caroline has set up some boundaries because she knows she's got this whole issue. Her, or future husband, I guess, is the guy that, really loves Logan and wants him to be there. But he doesn't want any, waves, so they have this whole plan where Kendall will be here, Logan will be there. But Kendall and Logan do not respect boundaries. So that plan goes right out the window. How did Caroline not know that wasn't going to work?
Basically, Kendall is really bottoming out now. He's still kind of trying to maintain his momentum, but he's going downhill here. And at a certain point, he says, you know what, let's just meet and let's talk this through.
Kendall and Logan have a meeting, to maybe discuss this buyout option. And Logan uses Kendall's child as an actual human shield.
Which at first, it was kind of funny because Kendall liked that Logan was afraid of him, because Logan was worried that he might get poisoned at that dinner. Kendall's like, oh, what's wrong? You afraid? And thinking, you should be afraid. Then Logan calls his grandson in and says, here, taste this, son. It's delicious. Give it a try. He uses his own grandson as a human shield and has him taste the potentially poisoned food right in front of Kendall.
Maybe one of the most messed up things that happens in the whole series, even though there's a lot of messed up things that happen. Logan learns that Kendall does want out, and he immediately uses that against him.
Right away, Kendall's like, you know what? I'm out. I'll take the $2 billion and I'm out. And Logan's like, oh yeah, that was just a joke. I wasn't serious about that. I think I'd rather keep you close. Now Kendall's really spiraling. He's really starting to hit a bottom here. His expectations are being subverted. Right when he thinks he has the upper hand, he doesn't. And Logan is playing so many dirty tricks on Kendall right now. Logan is a pretty bad guy, and he knows all the tricks of how to make someone feel small, how to make them feel ostracized, all the things. And he's pulling them out on Kendall right now.
Kendall has a mental health episode here involving water again. He is drunk, wasted, sitting on a flotation device, and he kind of falls into the pool. And it's a possible suicide attempt. It's definitely, a call for help, call for attention type of thing. But this leads to one of the best scenes in the entire series, where Kendall breaks down in front of his siblings and he confesses what has, Logan's been using to control him this whole season.
Right. So they catch word that Logan is meeting with Mattson and potentially selling the whole company, and that the kids are not involved in this decision. They look around and all the corporate people are gone. Dad's gone. And then they're getting whispers of things that are happening. And they go to Kendall, or Shiv goes to Kendall and says, I know that this is weird, but I need to talk to you. And if it wasn't important, I wouldn't be here. Like, we're not speaking right now, but I need you right now. Dad's getting ready to do this thing. So her and Roman and Kendall go off to talk. And Kendall keeps saying, not now. Not now. And he says, I'm not here, Shiv. I'm not here. He is in a full-blown depressive episode of a bipolar disorder scenario. And so he's feeling very low, very sad. Everything has come crashing down. And he starts really sobbing. He's got snot coming out. He is not okay. And he's saying, I'm not okay. At a certain point, he says, I'm all apart. I'm all apart. He's come undone. He's devolved and disintegrated. And that's what he feels like. And he starts talking about how he had killed that kid. And they're like, shut up. Whatever. And he's like, at your wedding. And she's like, So the more he said, the more they started to perk their ears up and realize that he was telling the truth, because it was starting to match the events of her wedding. But they also have this pressing matter going on where they're trying to catch up with what their dad's doing because they need to go defend the company because he's getting ready to sell it out from under them. So they keep talking to Kendall, trying to get him to feel better because they need him, but he's really not okay. She eventually gets a call and has to walk away. I mean, they are consoling him. You know, she's touching him and kind of petting him. And you can see that she feels his pain. I mean, she does have compassion for him. And I think that Roman also has compassion for him in the best way that he knows how. And what does Roman do? Roman uses humor for everything. And he keeps trying to make jokes. And Kendall keeps going, don't. Like, look, I need to be miserable right now. And don't try to make me feel better. This is a bad thing that I did. And I deserve to feel this way. Please don't try to make me feel better. But then Roman does say some funny things. And it does wind up being a little bit humorous. He says something like, well, it makes perfect sense because I couldn't get a drink at the wedding. You know, the way the drinks were taking forever. And really, who's the real victim here? I had to wait 45 minutes for a gin and tonic. And then Kendall starts to laugh and they pick him up and they say, let's go. They're going to go meet with their dad and they're going to confront him. And he says, okay, but can I stay with you? Can I go with you? And they said, yes. And he's like, okay. So he feels safe now being with his two siblings. He wants to be with them. They're helping him feel not so alone, maybe not as suicidal. And they are going to go and confront Logan, the three of them.
I think this might be the first time on the show, and maybe one of the only times on the show that, you know, I know there's at least one other time where the children are galvanized. They're together. They're all on the same page. You know, it doesn't matter, though. Doesn't matter how many of them could line up, even if they had Connor there, even if they had, you know, illegitimate brothers and sisters there, an army of brothers and sisters with true love. It is nothing up against the power that Logan has over them. And we're going to talk about the ending of the season from a lot of different perspectives. So, you know, I think we should just end things here with the children galvanized going to war against their dad.
I agree, because we know what happens next, and that will be a topic for a different episode. I think that the most important point at the ending is that the kids are now working together. And we will see that then again at the beginning of season 4, which then carries us into the events of season 4. Their relationship, how it has evolved, is a big factor in what happens next. And you're right, this is the first time. And they even look at each other in the car as they're driving. They're like, is this happening? And Roman's like, ew, I don't want to say it, gross, but maybe we'd make a good team. Ew. I don't even like saying that, but maybe we'd be a good team. And they're like, yeah, maybe we would be a good team. And they sort of look at each other like, let's work together. And I'm thinking, yes, let's do that. Let's work together.
What a journey it was for Kendall this season. He started in an empty bathtub. He went on to almost die in a pool full of water. And then right by the ocean, him and his brother and sister become a team.
And let's not forget his journey through his own mom's vagina.
Well, we all got to journey through that this season.
Andrew, thanks so much for doing this with me. I can't wait for our next episode. We are going to talk about Roman next. This season winds up being a lot more about Roman to a large degree. So we have a lot to say about his part in things. And thank you for watching or listening. Goodbye.
This has been HBO's Succession, an analysis of a toxic family system.